What's up, everyone? Justin Melo and Justin Graver back here with another exclusive YouTube breakdown for the Music City Audible channel. And today we are breaking down our dueling 4-round 2024 NFL mock drafts. It is December 4th as of this recording, so a lot is going to change. Obviously, we haven't even got out of bowl season for college football. Then there's all the pre-draft hype, the Senior Bowl, the other All-Star Bowls. The Combine is a huge deal, pro days, team visits. All of that is way out in the future. So we are acknowledging that as we begin this mock draft, but it's never too early to start looking ahead, especially when you are a fan of the Tennessee Titans and your regular season feels over. Right, Justin? So explain how we did this today.
So we used the Pro Football Focus mock draft simulator. We did a 4-round mock. If you listen to the last episode, we did 4 rounds specifically. Since the Titans don't own a 3rd-round pick, it'd be weird to do a 3-round mock and only make 2 picks each. That's not as much fun, not as exciting. So we did a 4-round mock so we can get 4 different players. With that said, let's get to it.
Let's get to it. All right. So the Titans in this simulator are picking 8th overall. And the reason we use a simulator is we're not just saying this guy will be there at 8. We're like, all right, let's see what are the chances of who's going to be on the board at pick 8. So for my pick, number 8, I'll go first here. The top 2 tackles that everyone in Titans land wants to see the team draft, Ola Fashanu and Joe Alt, were off the board for my pick. But there was a wide receiver sitting there who we all love, Malik Neighbors out of LSU. He is a deep threat. He is a yak monster, and he is an athletic, big receiver that the Titans could use to be their number 1 receiver, their number 2, complementing DeAndre Hopkins maybe for his rookie season and then go on to be a potential number 1. Could be a superstar in the league, should win the Biletnikoff Award for best wide receiver in the nation this year. I took Malik Neighbors with the 8th overall pick.
Well, you're a sucker because I had one of the tackles available in my mock draft simulator. We're using the same simulator. Clearly, Graver does not value protecting the quarterback, or he would have done something differently to prevent the tackles from being off the board. No, all kidding aside, though, I did have Joe Alt available. I did not have Malik Neighbors available. That might have been the one switch that we had, but it was a no-brainer for me. I sprinted to the podium, and I got Will Levis's left tackle of the future, a franchise left tackle, Notre Dame's Joe Alt, incredibly strong, great grip strength, outstanding athlete. Maybe not the athlete that Olu Fashanu is, but this would be one hell of a consolation prize. I've studied the tape already. Franchise left tackle tendencies. I'm a big fan of Joe Alt. Super excited I was able to land him at number 8.
If the Titans do end up picking 8th and not later in the draft, you really hope one of those 2 tackles will be there. In my scenario, they were not there, so I went with the next best guy on the board. But for your scenario, you'd love to see the Titans get one of those 2 tackles. Let's move on to round 2. Titans picking 40th overall in this mock draft in this scenario. And this is where I got the pass protection for Will Levis. So I took Washington tackle Troy Fautanu. He's only 6'4", a bit on the smaller side for tackles, but he has long arms. He started the last 2 seasons at left tackle for Washington. He may project to guard in the NFL. And this is one of those, like Titans fans may be scarred from the Dylan Radins pick, who was a tackle turned guard turned tackle. And we're still not really sure what his position is in the NFL. So I can understand if Titans fans are a little hesitant there. But at this point, as we look to rebuild the Titans offensive line, they really need help across the board. So if you take Fautanu and you try him at left tackle and it doesn't work, maybe he becomes your right guard and Daniel Brunskill becomes your, versatile swing interior backup offensive lineman. Or maybe Daniel Brunskill gets a chance to try right tackle. Or maybe Jalen Duncan plays left tackle and Fautanu slots in somewhere else. The point is you need a lot of guys. You need a lot of bodies on this offensive line. Peter Skoronski is your only locked in starter for 2024 right now, and he's your left guard. So whether or not Fautanu ends up playing tackle or guard, I think you draft him hoping he can be a tackle. And if not, you still have a position for him on this offensive line.
Well, I'm starting to think that Graver here made the Dylan Radins and Peter Skoronski picks for the Titans because he's given you another potential tackle to guard convert. I mean, look, all bets are off. I'm trying to win this competition. I want our listeners, our viewers to think that I had the better mock draft. All kidding aside, I do really like Troy Fautanu. I do think he's going to be a guard, in all honesty. That's my early evaluation of him, but he's an outstanding football player. You'll get to watch him and the Huskies in the college football playoff. I highly recommend Titans fans keep an eye on him because he's a very good offensive line prospect. I went in a different direction altogether. This is where I beat you, in my opinion. Because I traded back. I traded back. I executed a trade with the Las Vegas Raiders. I moved down to 43rd overall. I picked up a third round pick that the Titans do not have in this upcoming draft. But to even the odds between you and I, and to make the trade go through for them to accept it, because I didn't force the deal, I had to include the fourth round pick that you're going to make a little bit later. So I don't have a fourth rounder anymore, but I do have a third rounder. Moving back, I moved back cool, calm, and collected like a seasoned NFL general manager. I knew there'd be a wide receiver that I'd like to get, even though I moved back. And I ended up with another LSU wide receiver. You took Malik Neighbors. I took Brian Thomas Jr. This guy is listed at 6'4", 205 pounds. If you watch LSU on tape the way I have this year, what an intriguing guy. I kept kind of creeping my attention towards him as much as I loved watching Malik Neighbors. He's been outstanding this year. This is a guy that did not play a lot of football prior to this season for LSU. He is a breakout star. You talk about a big-bodied guy that high points the football, but he's a threat in the vertical passing game as well. He's got the long speed necessary to get behind defensive backs. I mean, I'm a big fan. You haven't seen this kid yet, Titans Nation? Go watch him against Ole Miss. He was unbelievable. I mean, they had absolutely no answer for him. I thought he played well against Missouri as well, but especially the Ole Miss game was just silly. I think he had 2 or 3 touchdowns, if I'm remembering correctly. But I'm a big fan of this kid. He's a little raw, a little rough around the edges. It's a good thing you got DeAndre Hopkins in here. You probably want to sign a receiver in free agency as well, but I'm a big fan of the long-term potential, Brian Thomas Jr.
Nice. I think that's a great pick. And why don't you go ahead and move on to your third round selection since you actually have one and I do not? Go ahead.
Yeah, I addressed cornerback here. I think it's very clear if you watch the Titans on Sunday against the Colts that they need a corner. It's very important. In fact, it was the main reason I hope they pick up a third round pick. I think they got to get another top 100 pick so they can get a defensive back. I took Auburn corner, and I don't believe I'm butchering this. Nehemiah Pritchett. He's a guy that I have watched on tape. He's got good size for the position. Comes in at about 6 foot 190, I believe. He's physical on tape. He's aggressive. He plays the game with a lot of poise. I like to see the ball production take a bit of a step forward. I think he had something like 1 pick and 3 or 4 pass breakups this year. Didn't have any picks last year. So the ball production's got to be better. He's got to be better playing through the hands of receivers at the catch point. But Auburn had a great secondary this year. The other corner is draftable as well, and DJ James. He's a smaller, probably a nickel-only type. But right now, I am a fan of this Auburn corner. I believe he's going to the Senior Bowl as well, so the Titans will get a chance to see him up close and personal, and I think he could come in and contribute right away. If you haven't, I mean, I'm sure everyone here, this is SEC country, right? Auburn, out Kentucky, all this Titans Nation is SEC country, so you're probably familiar with him. He's a good prospect.
Nice. I think that's a good pick. Titans obviously need to address the secondary. In my scenario here, moving on to the fourth round, pick 108, I have them addressing the secondary in free agency. Go sign somebody like Jalen Johnson. You got tons of cap space. You need good players. See if you can fix that issue there. Maybe attack the position later in the draft, because in the fourth round here, I'm taking center out of Georgia, Cedric Van Pran. He is a potential plug and play 10-year starter at the interior of the offensive line. Aaron Brewer set to be a free agent for the Titans, and even if you bring him back, you're still probably looking for an upgrade. You probably don't bring back Aaron Brewer if you're not planning to make him a starter. Remember, they signed him to about a $4 million contract for this season. You don't do that again if you're planning on him being a backup. So in my scenario, maybe Aaron Brewer has moved on, and the Titans take Cedric Van Pran here, a starter on the championship team. Could have come out in the draft last year, decided to go back to school and try to win another one for Georgia. Obviously, they won't be doing that. They probably will blow out Florida State in the Peach Bowl, I think is what they're playing. But anyway, my pick here for the Titans, another offensive lineman, potentially another interior offensive lineman, depending on where Fatanu ends up. But I think, as I said before, the Titans just need to draft bodies for the offensive line, figure out where they go later, just get 5 capable guys in here that can actually play at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, look, this was a guy that they thought was going to enter the draft. The certainly scouts in the league that I had spoke with, they thought he was going to enter the draft after last year. I mean, they had just won their second national championship. I thought he played a good quality season last year. In fact, I actually remember finishing his scouting report because I was so convinced he was going to declare. I watched a ton of tape on him last year. I finished the scouting report, and I had him probably in the same range, like a 75 to 100 range. I really liked him as a potential plug-and-play center. It was a surprise when he returned. I don't think he did anything to hurt his draft stock. Potentially may have helped it this year, but I think he'll still ultimately land in that sort of 60 to 90 range. It's a big range. Forgive me, it's early, right? We'll see how things shake out, but he's a good football player, and I think fans should be pretty happy that you did probably a bit of a better job addressing the O-line than I did, but I did get the corner that you didn't. So that's the perfect way for a dueling mock draft to go.
And I like that, you started with the offensive lineman and then went with the wide receiver. I did the opposite. If Joe Alt or Olaf Ashanu had fallen to me at 8, I probably would have taken them. And then when I was sitting there on the clock, pick 40, Xavier Worthy was still on the board. And if I hadn't already taken Malik Neighbors, I would love to take Xavier Worthy there for the Titans, give Will Levis a real deep threat option, and, of course, hook 'em horns. Let us know in the comments who did a better job in the draft in this mock draft scenario. Whose draft do you like more, or who would you pick? Who's your top option for the Titans in this upcoming 2024 NFL draft? As we sit here and look ahead 4 or 5 months in the future, we're getting way ahead of ourselves here, but I think it's time for Titans fans to start talking about the draft.
Yeah, and if you guys enjoy this, I mean, we'll be able to monitor the numbers. We'll know if you like it or not. We'll do more of them because there are different scenarios we could have played around with. I could have traded up, traded back in the first round. I could have taken a safety. We could have taken an edge defender. There are so many different scenarios to explore, and the Titans are going to explore all of them this offseason, right, as they figure out which needs they want to prioritize. Because, spoiler alert, chances are they're not going to see it exactly how you see it in the same order. They might say, we want a Kevin Byard replacement, right, more than we think. They might say this D-line's disappointing. We need another edge guy. They're going to be losing Dina Kawatri most likely in free agency. So things are going to look differently probably than we think they will, especially when you start getting into 3-4 rounds. It's never exactly the way you think it is. So we could explore other scenarios. If you guys enjoyed this one, let us know. We're trying to get in and out of here in about 10 minutes, so it's short and snackable for you. We'll do more of them for sure.
Yes, sir. Lots more draft content on the way over the next few months. So thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We'll be back with more. Until then, y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.